24 absolutely totally true facts about penguins was one of my favorite books, actually. And it came about, I think partly, I read a book years ago called The Laughing Classroom. And it was about how more learning takes place when you're having fun and when you're interested in topics, which I knew to be totally true for myself when I was not even just at school or university, but now. Like I learn much better, and I know I'm interested in the things, or find it entertaining. And so yeah, so it sort of grew out of that. And then also just that idea that a lot of kids love nonfiction books, but a lot of nonfiction books I found were also just a bit dull. They were really dry. And so yeah, just wanted to do something that was non-fiction, but also fiction in a way, but also not fiction because everything in it's true. And so yeah, it just sort of grew out of that. And then talking with James Hart, who's the illustrator, we just sort of discussed it, and it just went from there. So it's providing all these facts about penguins that are all true, but some of them are made up at the same time. Penguins are cool. I like penguins. Even when I'm drawing, I always start by thinking, what animals do I like? And I draw those. So I've actually written about 6 of these books, and the penguins were the first one, was the first book I wrote. And I don't know, I think just knowing penguins can't fly, I had a starting point. Whereas the others, I had to kind of research even the very first point. But I knew penguins don't fly. That's my starting point. I can build from that. So that's my memory of it. But that may be a made up fact that I've just given you just then. In terms of the real facts, I love the one they can trap warm air between their skin and their feathers. I don't know how they do that, but they can trap warm air in there, and that keeps them warm when they're obviously swimming in these really cold waters and living in these cold areas. So yeah, I thought that was really, really cool. It's like they're wearing a little jacket, I guess, and got a little buffer. So yeah, I thought that one was really cool. This is an interesting one. I used to love writing not kids books. I used to love writing stories when I was at school, and my stepdad was a teacher librarian, and my grandmother actually wrote children's books as well. And my dad didn't technically write books, but he always wrote funny little letters and things like that. So right. And also my other grandmother was an actress, and my sister, like we had creativity and everything in our family. But then in my final year of school, I hated what I had to write in English, and I had to write these deep, meaningful, symbolic stories and essays. And I was like an immature 17-year-old, and I wanted to write just funny, silly stories or sports stories. And so I was failing, and I hated it. So I became an engineer, went against everything that my family did, and became an engineer because I loved maths and everything as well, and did that for a while. And about 10 years later, my fiance, she was doing professional writing at university, and she had to write a children's book and illustrate it. And she was an amazing artist. So she did that. And I'm like, that's really good. And she's like, oh, anyone can write a children's book, which is something that we hear a lot. And I like, no, they couldn't. I bet I couldn't. She goes, I bet you could. And so we actually had a $10 bet. She bet me $10 I could write a children's book. And so I did. I remember it so clearly. It was not good. It was half rhyme and half not. It was about this character called Blip who lived near the sandpit in a backyard, and this kid met him. And yeah, but I did it, and I finished it, and I just went, that was the most fun I've ever had. Why have I not been writing the last 10 years? And so from that day, that was about 20 years ago, and I haven't missed a day since then. I've written every single day for the last 20 years. And that year, just again, not that they were great, but just hundreds of stories flowed out of me because they'd been building up over the years. The only writing I'd done was on birthday cards. So I suddenly had all these, I would just start writing, and I did The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I read The Artist's Way and did that. And that was amazing for me. And I started sort of taking little one-day courses and things as well. And that was it. That was sort of the start of it. And that was also the start of, I think, about 6 years and 150 odd rejections before I actually self-published and had my first book done. What do I love most about being a children's book author? I got asked this. I was doing a virtual school visit recently, and one of the kids asked that, and I sort of went, well, it's this. No, wait, it's this. No, wait, it's just everything, okay? And so it kind of is. There's nothing. There's probably nothing I don't like about being a children's book author. I love when a new idea hits me and I can sort of, I get so excited about it. I love when I'm working on a project I love. I've even come to enjoy the editing process. I'm working with some really great editors now, so that's a lot more enjoyable now. And I love when I get messages from parents or kids saying that they enjoyed the books, or that their child had never read a full story and he's read my book 3 times. Like, yeah, I love taking afternoon naps. There's kind of, I can't think of anything I don't like. I think probably my favorite thing though, so I'm going to do it again. Look, I love coming. One of my favorite things is working with James Hart, who's illustrated. We're best friends, and we've done about 20 odd books together now, I think. And often we'll have an idea, and I'll go to his place, and he's got one of his walls is done in blackboard paint. So I'll just sit in a chair, he'll grab some chalk, and we'll just brainstorm ideas, and he'll write and draw and everything. And we'll start off slow always, and then suddenly we'll hit on something, and then the board will just fill up in like 10 minutes. And that sort of creative collaboration and working with him and coming up with those ideas it's quite thrilling, actually. It's amazing. So I'm going to say that is my favorite thing about writing. My writing process it's actually, I'm not going to say scattergun, but it kind of is. Like I'm not one to plan. I very rarely plan my stories. So a lot of it will be getting an idea, and especially if I'm home, just starting to write it. I'll just start to get into it, and I mean, I might think about it a little bit if I can, but generally, like, so I remember one time I was on the phone to a friend. I was walking in the house, and there was a bull ant. I think they're called bull ants over in America as well. Although I did mention it to one friend who's in America. She's like, what's a bull ant? But it's like it's a biggish ant that bites you, basically. And so we call them bull ants here in Australia. And I saw a bull ant. I'm like, Alfred, there's a bull ant in my house. And he went, oh, there's a bull ant in the bedroom. That's a good idea for a story. And I was just like, oh, there's a bull ant in the bedroom and it bit me on the bum. I've got to go. And I hung up on him and I ran to the computer and I just started typing. And within half an hour, a first draft was out. Like, it just flew out, because it just it was one of those beautiful moments where it just all kind of came together. And it didn't change a great deal by the time it became a final book, actually. So yeah, so often it'll just be that I get an idea, I'll just start writing, and I'm happy to write anywhere. I'll write on the train, I'll get ideas and sort of start saying them out loud in the car. So it's not. So I guess that's my process in a way. It's that, I mean, I write every day. That's one main thing I do, whether it's working on a project, I journal in the mornings. I generally have something I'm working on, but if not, I'll just write anything. And so that is probably the main part of the process, because I think that, well, there's sort of those different ideas about inspiration. One is you wait for inspiration, but the one I like that I've heard from a few people is inspiration comes when you're doing the work. When you're writing and when you're doing whatever it is, that's when other things are going to pop in. And the more you're writing, the more you're creating, the more you're going to notice things and ideas are going to come in. So that's probably my main process is just putting in the work and doing the writing and looking and being aware. And I guess, again, after 20 years of writing, I guess that getting those ideas, it becomes easy to start transferring an idea into a story. Whereas early, I'd get the idea and I'd fluff around with it for a little bit and I'd think about it and I'd try something. And still, not everything works now, but it's quicker to get through the bits that don't work to the bits that do. So yeah, now I talked around that question a lot, but that's probably my process is just to write and to say yes to ideas. When an idea comes in, just give it a crack. And if it works, great. If it doesn't matter, move on to something else. I'll celebrate if a book's picked up, or when I've signed a contract or something. The first time I had a book picked up by a major publisher in Australia, which was Scholastic. I'd worked with some smaller publishers, and one got picked up by a major one. And I'd done it with James. We'd pitched this book together to Scholastic, and I can't remember when I found out, but for some reason I was in the car not long after, and I just got We Are the Champions by Queen, and I just played it over and over as I was driving along. I was singing along, and so often I'll play that. I have that I play as my little celebration song, and also Unstoppable by Sia is the other one. So I often play those songs a little bit when something good happens, like I sometimes when I finish, but generally when it's actually gone to the next stage and it's going to become a book. So yeah, probably that. Just play the songs. I live in Croydon, possibly the greatest place on earth. I love Croydon. Well, I went to Slovenia one time and loved that. But yeah, I live in Croydon, which is just out of Melbourne in Australia. 3 words I'd use to describe myself would be bouncy and fast talking. That's got a hyphen, so that counts as one word. So bouncy, fast talking, and loyal. My favorite book to read when I was young, I had so many. I really love The Twits by Roald Dahl, and also Bill Peet. And a lot of people here in Australia especially don't know a lot about Bill Peet, but he worked with Walt Disney a lot, and he worked on the original 101 Dalmatians and other ones as well. I think Sword in the Stone was the other one. I lost it, but he did that pretty much all himself, all the storyboarding. But he had a book called The Pinkish, Purplish, Bluish Egg, which was amazing. I actually just sourced a copy just recently. I'd been looking everywhere for it and found copies of that. So now I have about 8 or 9 Bill Peet books. So I'm building up my collection again. So yeah, but those two are probably Roald Dahl and Bill Peet were my 2 favorite authors, and The Twits and The Pinkish, Purplish, Bluish Egg were my 2 favorite books. I like drawing, but also I love live music. So the last couple of years has been hard for me. I always try and go to at least 3 major concerts, live music concerts a year, plus smaller gigs as well, and haven't been to one in a couple of years, obviously because of all the restrictions at the moment. So yeah, love live music. I go for walks every day. And I love playing golf, although again, haven't done much of that for the last couple of years. But I am currently, I've just paid the deposit. I'm getting a mini golf course installed in my backyard, a little putt-putt course. So I'm super, super excited about that because no one can stop me playing golf. This is an interesting one because I have many, many food allergies and restrictions. I have 6 different things that I'm intolerant to, and I'm vegetarian as well. So there's not a lot left. So back when I was a meat eater, back when I was younger, my favorite food was chicken schnitzel. I love the chicken, or chicken parma. But now my favorite food now would most likely be a smoothie, which I think counts as a food because I put lots of stuff in it. But I often have, my favorite one is bananas and berries, a banana berry smoothie with some coconut oil in there. Oh, yeah, that's really good. If I could be a character in one of my favorite books, I would like this to be harder to answer than it is, but it's actually super, super simple. So I have a book, or I have a series, but the first book is The Incredible Journey of Pete Mcgee. And Pete Mcgee is a boy with one arm, and he wants to become a knight. And so it's set in the times of knights. But basically, when I was writing it, Pete Mcgee, I mean, he's 12 years old, but he's the person that I would want to be if I was as good as I could be. Like he's super brave and loyal and loving and sacrificing and funny. And yeah, he's everything that I would like to be. So yeah, definitely Pete Mcgee. It's interesting. I was just watching an interview with Ryan Reynolds, and he was talking about Free Guy, which I loved watching Free Guy. I thought it was amazing. And obviously there were some messages in there and some sort of lessons and things. But he said, and he was asked this question: what do you want people to come get out of this movie? And he said, I just want them to come out of the theater and just think, I just had a great time for an hour and a half. And that's kind of how I feel with all my books. I mean, one of my sort of little mission statements I have is I want to entertain and inspire as many kids as I possibly can. And so that's with every book. That's kind of my goal. But obviously with this one, there's sort of the education in there. So I think I'd like I'd like kids to learn without it seeming like learning, I think, is one big thing. So for them to retain the stuff, but not have it feel like it's teaching and a real lesson sort of thing. So yeah, I think it's just to have fun, but also to take a little bit out of it as well, and maybe remember a few facts apart from just that penguins can't fly, which is all I knew when I first started the book as well.